On this first afternoon of October, as the light begins to soften and the noise of the day slowly fades, many hearts feel both the weight of what has already passed and the questions of what lies ahead. A new month often brings a quiet mixture of hope and unease. We wonder if we will have the strength to meet the challenges that wait for us, or if the worries we carried from the past weeks will follow us still. It is into this very human experience that Psalm 62, 1-2, 5-8 speaks so clearly. The psalmist begins with a personal confession. Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. Later he writes, Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from Him. Trust in Him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts to Him, for God is our refuge. Here we see not just beautiful words, but a picture of what the human soul truly needs. The writer of the psalm had lived through seasons of danger and uncertainty, yet he discovered that real peace and stability were not found in changing circumstances or in his own ability to stay in control. They were found in turning toward God, in learning to rest his very soul in God's presence. The central message of this psalm is simple but profound. Rest is not the absence of work or trouble, but the presence of trust. We often imagine that we will feel at peace only after everything is solved, after the storms of life are gone. But the psalmist reminds us that it is possible to find a deep calm even while the storms still rage, not because we have figured everything out, but because we have learned where to anchor our hearts. The image of God as rock and fortress is especially powerful. In the ancient world, a rock was a place of safety above the flood, and a fortress was a place where a weary traveler could finally stop running. These images tell us that God offers not just encouragement from afar, but a secure place for the soul, a foundation that does not shift when the winds of life change direction. Think of how we often approach the start of a new month. We make lists, set goals, and promise ourselves we will do better or handle things differently. While these efforts are good, they can leave us feeling as if everything depends on us. This psalm gently corrects that thought. It invites us to begin not with our plans, but with trust, to place our hope in the one who already knows the path ahead. Imagine, for a moment, standing on the edge of a busy street, feeling the rush of people and noise around you. Then imagine stepping into a quiet garden nearby. The city has not disappeared, but you have entered a space that feels different, calmer, steadier. That is what the psalmist means by resting in God. The world's demands remain, but in God's presence, we find a stillness that can hold us steady. This is the lesson and the promise of Psalm 62, that the soul does not have to wait for perfect circumstances to find peace. It can find peace today, in this very moment, by choosing to lean on the one who is unshaken. As we begin this prayer for the afternoon of October 1st, we come with that invitation in mind to set down the weight of what we cannot control, to let our hearts breathe, and to remember that we have a refuge strong enough for every season. As you hear these words, allow yourself to pause for a moment. The rush of the week and the noise of your own thoughts can wait. Take a slow breath and imagine setting down the burdens you have been carrying, the ones that weigh on your heart, even when you sit in silence. Picture placing them at the feet of the one who has promised to be your refuge. This is the beginning of our prayer for today. To step away, even for a few moments, from the restless thoughts that tire us, and to let our hearts remember that we do not have to find all the answers on our own. We are invited to rest, not in perfect circumstances, but in the unchanging presence of the one who holds us steady. We often think of weariness as something physical, the heaviness in our body at the end of a long day. But there is another kind of weariness that lingers beneath the surface, the weight of unspoken worries, the quiet tension of trying to hold too many things together at once, the tiredness of the heart that never fully relaxes. The psalm speaks directly to this deeper fatigue. My soul finds rest in God. He is my fortress. These words invite us to look beyond the surface busyness and notice what is happening inside. They remind us that what most needs rest is often not our hands, but our hearts. Think of how often we go through the day carrying invisible loads, replaying conversations in our minds, wondering if we made the right decision, imagining possible problems before they even arrive. It is like walking with a backpack that keeps getting heavier, even though no one else can see it. Over time, it wears us down, not because of its visible weight, but because of the strain it places on the soul. Imagine sitting down at the end of a demanding day beside a still river. The water moves slowly, the air feels lighter, and even if the world beyond is busy, the moment itself is calm. Trust in God works in a similar way. It doesn't erase the tasks waiting for tomorrow, but it quiets the heart enough to breathe, to rest, to remember that we are not carrying everything alone. As you pause in this afternoon prayer, consider what unseen burdens you have been holding. Perhaps it is a worry about the future, a relationship that weighs on your heart, or a quiet disappointment that you rarely speak about. Picture yourself laying that weight down, not because it suddenly ceases to matter, but because you have remembered that there is a place of safety stronger than your own efforts. Let this part of the psalm guide you into that rest. Allow the thought to settle in your heart. You do not have to keep standing guard over every possibility. You are not abandoned in your struggle. There is a fortress for your soul, and in that refuge, you are allowed to rest. One of the quiet struggles of the human heart is learning how to live in a world that is always changing. Plans shift, seasons of life come and go. People we counted on move away or are no longer near, and even our own hearts sometimes feel uncertain. We look for something that will not move beneath us, something that can hold steady when everything else shifts. The psalm points us to that very need. He alone is my rock and my salvation. To call God a rock is more than a poetic phrase. It is an image drawn from the experience of travelers in ancient times who sought safety on high, solid ground. A rock is something that remains when the river floods or the wind changes. It does not sway with the storm. Many of us know the feeling of having tried to build our sense of security on things that later proved to be fragile. A job, a relationship, the approval of others, even our own ability to stay in control. When those things shifted, it felt as if the ground under our feet gave way. The psalm's words remind us that there is a deeper foundation available to us, one that does not shift with changing circumstances. Think of the difference between building a house on sand and building it on stone. The walls and the roof may look the same for a time, but when the weather turns harsh, the foundation reveals its strength In the same way, when life becomes uncertain, the heart anchored in, perhaps as you listen now, you can think of areas in your life that feel uncertain or unstable, plans that seem fragile, relationships that have changed, dreams that have been delayed. Let the image of God as a rock speak to that place in you. Imagine standing barefoot on a large, immovable stone after walking on the shifting sand. Feel the difference under your feet, the solidness, the steadiness. That is the picture this psalm invites you to carry in your heart. As we pray this afternoon, let us remember that our strength is not in trying to control every change around us, but in resting our hearts on the one who does not change. The storms may come, but the rock beneath us remains. And in that steadiness, we find the courage to take the next step forward with peace. Waiting is one of the hardest lessons of faith. We are often willing to trust God as long as the answer comes quickly, as long as the path unfolds at the pace we prefer. But real trust is tested in the in-between, in the long, quiet stretches when the prayer has been spoken, yet the outcome is not yet clear. The psalmist writes, "My soul, wait silently for God alone, for my hope comes from Him." These words feel almost like a gentle whisper to the restless heart. They remind us that waiting is not wasted time. It is the space in which trust grows deeper. In our busy lives, waiting often feels like a failure. We measure progress by how quickly things move, by how soon we get results. But spiritual life teaches us that some of the most important things happen in the waiting. The roots of a tree grow deep in the dark soil before they ever break the surface. The seed rests unseen long before it sprouts. The dawn always takes its time after the longest night. There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes from carrying questions that have no quick answers. It can feel as though the heart is holding its breath, braced for what may come. This psalm speaks into that weariness, reminding us that the invitation is not to carry the burden of timing ourselves, but to lean into the one whose timing is perfect. Think of standing by the shore and watching the tide. It moves in and out at its own rhythm. No amount of effort can hurry it along, yet its timing is steady and sure. Trusting God in the waiting is like learning to watch the tide, to accept that while you cannot hasten it, you can rest in the knowledge that it will come. Perhaps you find yourself waiting even now for a door to open, for a relationship to heal, for clarity in a decision, for strength in a season that feels long. This psalm invites you to breathe in that space rather than fight against it. It tells you that God's care does not pause while you wait. It is present in the waiting itself, shaping you quietly as you learn to lean on Him. Waiting with trust does not mean we stop longing or that we never feel impatient. It means we keep returning to the thought that our hope does not depend on the speed of events, but on the faithfulness of the one who holds all times in His hands. As you reflect this afternoon, take a moment to bring to mind the places in your life where you are still waiting. Imagine setting them down gently, as if placing them in the hands of someone you deeply trust. Let your soul learn, even if slowly, that rest and hope can grow in the waiting, because the one you trust is steady, unhurried, and faithful. One of the quietest but most powerful sources of hope is memory, the remembering of the times when God has already carried us through. The psalmist's confidence is not built on wishful thinking. It grows out of knowing, through experience, that the one he trusts has proven faithful again and again. We often look forward with worry because the future feels uncertain, but looking back, we can often trace moments we could not see clearly at the time. The unexpected provision that came just when it was needed, the strength that appeared when we felt at the edge of our limits, the gentle way a path opened when we thought there was no way through. These memories become like small stones set into the foundation beneath our feet. The image of God as a rock is not only about the present moment, it is also about the steady presence that has held us in the past. When we recall those moments of care, our hearts find courage for what is still ahead. It is as if remembering allows us to feel the rock beneath us more firmly, even when the road is steep. Think of someone climbing a mountain path. At times, the way forward is hidden by fog, but every so often, they come to a ledge where they can pause, look back, and see how far they have come, the valleys they have crossed, the obstacles they have passed. That backward glance strengthens them to keep climbing. In much the same way, remembering God's past faithfulness strengthens our hearts to keep moving forward. Many of us are quick to forget the quiet mercies that carried us through yesterday's challenges. We may have prayed for help, and then, when it came, hurried on without noticing. The psalm invites us to slow down and notice, to give thanks for what has already been given. Gratitude for the past becomes a source of courage for the future. Perhaps as you listen today, you can bring to mind even one moment from your own life when you felt held, when help came in a way you did not expect, when peace arrived in the middle of turmoil. That memory is not just a story from long ago, it is a reminder that the same God who was faithful then is faithful now. As this Tuesday's prayer draws us deeper into reflection, let your heart take strength from what you have already seen of God's goodness. The future may still hold uncertainties, but you do not face it empty-handed. You carry with you the testimony of His care, and that is enough to steady your steps for what lies ahead. As the evening settles on this first day of October, the words of the psalm echo like a gentle refrain. Truly, my soul finds rest in God. He alone is my rock and my salvation. It is a quiet truth, but a steady one. That real peace does not come from having every question answered or every problem resolved. It comes from knowing that there is a place for the soul to rest, even while life remains unfinished. Many of us reach the end of the day still carrying thoughts about what did not get done, the tasks left waiting for tomorrow, the conversations we wish had gone differently. This psalm invites us to set those things down for a moment, as if placing them on a table we do not have to clear by ourselves. The rest it speaks of is not the end of all work, but the lifting of the heart's burden. Think of the feeling of finally sitting down after a long day, the way the body exhales, the way the shoulders loosen as the weight of the day begins to slip away. That is what it means for the soul to find rest in God. The world around us may not change overnight, but within us there can be a stillness that grows, a quiet assurance that we are not facing our days alone. The psalm also calls God our fortress. A fortress is a place to which we can return again and again, not a place we visit once and leave behind. In the same way, this prayer is not a one-time act, but a rhythm we can keep. Each evening is another chance to lay down what is too heavy to carry, another chance to remember that the one who was faithful in the past is still faithful now. As you close this day, take a slow breath and let your thoughts settle. Imagine stepping inside a safe and quiet room, the door closing gently against the noise outside. That is what it means to entrust your heart to God tonight. In that shelter, you do not need to prove your strength. You simply rest in His. If this prayer has brought calm to your heart, let it be more than a moment. Make it a practice to return here each evening, to pause before the day ends, and remember that you're not walking this path alone. We invite you to subscribe to this channel so we can meet again each day at this hour to reflect, to pray, and to find renewed hope together. May this night bring you true rest, not only for the body, but for the soul. And may tomorrow greet you with a steadier heart, anchored in the assurance that the one who is your rock and your salvation will be the same in every day to come.